welcome into a new tutorial. So we are going to be making leg warmers today. So this is one version that I have here with these scallops. We're going to make one of these pair with the lace. And then I've also made some with stripes with the scallop. And then this one is made with a purple multicolored yarn with the lace. And then we have a striped version here with the lace ruffle at the bottom. We're going to be using this 100% acrylic big twist value yarn. It is 269 yards, 4.3 ounces. It is a medium 4 weight acrylic yarn. Again, you can use any yarn that you want and any hook that goes with your yarn. And we're not going to use a lot of this, so you can really use your scraps up. And then for the other one, like this one with the scallops, I'm going to be using this brown, it's called Camel, and it's 100% acrylic big twist value, and it's a number 4. And I have just maybe a half a skein here, and I'm going to use this for the scallops. So I'm going to attach my yarn with my 6mm hook. Again, you could be using different yarn that's bigger or smaller and have a bigger or smaller hook. So I attached my hook with a slip knot. We're going to chain 11. Okay, so here is our chain. And now we're going to be working back down into the chain with single crochets. This is going to be row 1. So I'm going to make a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So we never count the loop that's on our hook, we count the V's. So we go into the second V from the hook right here with a single crochet. Okay, so that will be 10 single crochets, so you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're counting the V's. So we lost one when we skipped over and went into the second chain from the hook. So now we will have 10. For this next row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And now we're going to be working back into these same stitches. What I like to do is do a single crochet on the first and the last stitch of my cuff. So just go right and do a regular single crochet through that entire stitch. And then I like to go into the back loop. So this back loop is right here. So turn your work towards you for those beginners, and you will see your V stitch there. All right, it'll look like a V. We're just going into the back V, the back loop with a single crochet. So go right between, go right inside this V and only pick up that back loop and do a single crochet all the way across except for the last stitch. So just pick up those back loops of that stitch. Okay, so here's our second to the last stitch. So we're going to do a back loop only, single crochet, and then for the last stitch, we're going to do just a regular single crochet. All right, so we're going to chain and turn. So we're going to chain one, turn our work. For this next row, we're going to just continue the row before. So we're going to do a regular single crochet in the first and the last stitch of all of these rows. And you're going to continue doing this row up until you reach your measurement that you're looking for. And now we're going to do the back loop single crochets in every single stitch across the row. Again, we're doing a single crochet only in that back loop. Okay, so we've done all of our back loop single crochets. See how this ridge is starting here? And on the last loop, we're going to do just a regular single crochet going into that entire stitch. At the end of the row, we're going to chain one and turn our work. Okay, so we chained one, we're turning our work. And again, we're going to put a regular single crochet in the first stitch, and when we get to the end of this, we're going to put a single crochet into the entire stitch at the end of the row. And then all of these stitches in between are back loop only single crochets. And make sure when you are crocheting, you're not accidentally picking up any of these other stitches when you go into your stitch. Okay, so back loop only single crochets going across. And then on the very last one, again, we're going to just do a regular single crochet into the last stitch and the first stitch of every row going across. So just continue. We're going to chain one and turn our work. Again, a regular single crochet in the first stitch, and then back loop only single crochets all the way across, and then a regular single crochet into the last stitch. Okay, so I have continued making my ribbing, and if you will notice that the top and the bottom has this nice detailing right here, and it's going to be very easy for us to make our stitches into there. And this is stretchy. The measurement that I'm going for is 10 inches, so I'm at that mark. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to chain one, and we're still going to have our work. So I like to pick up my work, and I like to have my working yarn here towards me. Okay, we're going to sandwich them like this. And I've already chained one, so then we're going to go back into that first stitch right here. Okay, so insert your hook there, and then you're going to insert in the other side that corresponds. So I don't like to go into these ridges right up here where I first did my initial chain. For some reason, I don't like to go in there. I like to go into row one. It's just easier for me, but if you want to go into these top stitches, you can. It's all up to you. We're just going to slip stitch. So I put my hook through both sections of yarn, through both rows, and I'm just going to hook the yarn and pull through, and then pull through that loop on your hook. And then you're going to insert into the next one. And I just go into that next stitch, go all the way through, get your yarn. Once you do the first one, it's easier. Okay, we're going to pick up every stitch going across with a slip stitch. We're going to sandwich our work together and just pull through with a slip stitch. So we're slip stitching both ends together. And you can try this on and make sure that it fits you okay before you go any further. So I just like to go row by row, insert my hook, do a nice slip stitch there, make sure I'm getting every one. But if you'd like to do yours different, you can. Okay, here's our last one. Just go straight through all those stitches with a slip stitch. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our work and sort of turn it inside out. Okay, so that the ridge that we just did is on the inside, and I like to work on the outside of my work. Okay, so what I like to do is just do an additional single crochet right into that very first stitch of this, call it row that we're doing. And then we're going to chain 2. All of my double crochet chains are going to be 2. If you want to do 3, you can. So I chained up 2, and we are going to place a double crochet right into that stitch that we just made, because we are not counting our chains for our turning chains as a stitch. So I just did a double crochet right into that same stitch. And now we're just going to put 1 single crochet into each of the ends of these rows. And it's really easy because of the fact that we did a single crochet in the center of the stitch. So just place a double crochet into each one of these little stitches, the holes that are at the end of these rows. It's really easy to see. Okay, we're getting to the end here, and we've been just putting 1 double crochet into each of these rows going across. All right, so here is our last, this is our valley, and this is our last peak row because we started in a valley. All right, so we're slip stitching right at the top of that double crochet. Okay, and what I want you to do is count your double crochets around here and get that number to make sure that we have the same amount. So, all right, so 1 in each row. So if we count, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For me, it's 36. You might have a different number depending on the rows that you did. So whatever your number is, just write it down. And that way, when you go to make your other leg warmer, it'll be the same size. And we're going to chain 2 for the next row. And we're going to turn our work. We're going to do a double crochet into that same stitch that we just chained from. All right, and that counts as 1. We are not counting the chain 2, that's the turning chain. We're not counting that as a stitch. So that counts as 1. And now we're going to place a double crochet into every single stitch going around. And if you count, you should have the same amount of stitches for this row as you did for the last row. So put 1 double crochet into each stitch going around. 4, 3, 5, 36. Okay, so I suggest you count your stitches to make sure you don't add an extra stitch here. We're going to go into not the turning chain. So this first chain 2 does not count. We're going into the very first stitch that was our very first double crochet with a slip stitch. Chain 2 and turn your work. All right, so that row was on the inside and now we're back on the outside, the good side. And we're going to place a double crochet right into that very first stitch that we just did. Okay, so our turning chain and our double crochet is all from the same hole, same stitch. That counts as 1. We're going to place 1 double crochet into every single stitch. And I would suggest counting to make sure that you have the exact same amount. So these first 3 rows that I am doing do not have any increases. And I'm going to try to do a tutorial where I make a longer version of the same style. Okay, so continue putting a double crochet into every single stitch going around, and you should still have the same amount. For me, it's 36. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch not into the turning chain. We're going to slip stitch into that stitch right there, our very first double crochet with a slip stitch. Okay, and that ends our 1, 2, 3 rows of not increasing. Chain 2, which is our turning chain. So we're going to turn our work, and this is going to be the first row we're going to increase. Again, we're putting 1 more double crochet right into that same stitch that we did our chain 2 for our turning chain. So that is going to count for 1 stitch. The turning chain and that first double crochet just counts as 1. We're not counting the turning chain as a separate stitch. And then we're going to start increasing. So what we're going to do is in that very next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets right into that next stitch. So we have our chain 2 and we have our double crochet in the same stitch. And then we have 2 double crochets in the very next stitch. That's our increase. And then just place 1 double crochet in every single stitch across the row. And we're working on the inside row right now. This stitch right here is where this is going. If you ever get confused, you can just do a count and make sure that you don't add an extra stitch there. So we're slip stitching in the very first double crochet that we did. So look for that first double crochet stitch. So we have our chain 2 right here, and then our first double crochet is going to stick right on top of there. It's very easy to see. So slip stitch into there to join with a slip stitch. All right, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work for the next row. All right, and again, we're placing 1 double crochet right into that same exact stitch. We're not counting the turning chain as a stitch. We're going to do another increase row. So right into that very next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. This pattern is very, very simple. All right, that's our increase. So our row count is going to be 1 more than it was for the last row. So we have our turning chain, our first double crochet in 1 same stitch, and then we have 2 double crochets in the next stitch. That's our increase. And then we're going to place 1 double crochet into every single stitch going around the row. Right now I'm on the good side of my work. It's very easy to see. So slip stitch into there to join with a slip stitch. All right, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work for the next row. All right, and again, we're placing 1 double crochet right into that same exact stitch. We're not counting the turning chain as a stitch. And again, the next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets into that next stitch. Okay, so we've got 2 crochets into that next stitch. And before that, we had our chain 2 turning chain and our first double crochet in all 1 stitch. All right, this is going to increase this row by 1 stitch. So continue putting 1 double crochet into each stitch of the row. Again, if I'm ever going too fast, you can pause the video. You can click the screen and click settings and slow down the playback speed. That'll slow down the entire video. And if I'm ever going too slow, you can just click the timestamps to skip ahead. We're placing 1 double crochet into every stitch of this row. Okay, here's our last stitch right there. Okay, that's our last stitch of the row. We're going to slip stitch again into the first double crochet of the row. Pull through there with a slip stitch. We're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have finished our 1, 2, 3 rows of regular rows with no increases, and then we finished 3 rows of increase. And now we're going to be working on our ruffle row. So we chained 5 for our ruffle row. Okay, so that chain 5 that we just did to start this row is going to count as a double crochet chain 2. So what we're going to do is place a double crochet in each of these stitches. We're not going to place one in the same stitch that we just did our chain 5. We're going to go into the next stitch with a double crochet, chain 2, and just continue that again all along in every stitch until the end of the row. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the row. This is my last stitch right here, so I'm going to do a double crochet right into this last stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to just slip stitch into the third chain up from the very first chain that we did of the chain 5. We're going to just slip stitch into the third chain of the chain 5 that we initially did, just like that. And then we're going to chain 3 for this next row and turn our work. And what we're going to do is just do a single crochet into this big space from the row before in our chain spaces. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to put a single crochet right here into this chain space, chain 3, single crochet into the big chain space, chain 3, single crochet into the next chain space, chain 3, single crochet into the next chain space. So continue doing that all around. Okay, so this is our last one. So we're going to place a single crochet right into that last space, chain 3, and then we're just going to slip stitch right here into the first sort of chain or single crochet or whatever you want to do. Sometimes what I like to do is just cut my yarn, take our darning needle, then it's really easy to join our work right there. So what I do is I just turn it right side and I just go into that sort of first single crochet area right there and connect it right like that with the darning needle. And then working on the inside, I just make a little knot. And then you're going to want to hide your end. So just weave in your ends. Cut your work, and then you're going to have an end from where you very first started. So just weave in that first end, actually at the very first end that you did. And again, you're going to weave it in on the inside of your work. So you're going into your stitches just on one side of your work so it doesn't show through on the other side. Skip a stitch and then weave it back through so your work does not come unraveled. Okay, and that's how simple it is and easy it is. We're going to make the tie. Isn't that so cute? I just love them, and aren't they just so simple and easy to make? Again, if you wanted to adjust the length of this, it's all up to you how long you want to make this. You could make this cover your whole calf if you wanted to. It's just all up to you, but I love making these cute little anklets, anklet leg warmers. So let's make the tie. Okay, so you can use the same yarn that you made your leg warmer to make your tie, or you can use some different yarn. So it's all up to you. You can use your stash. So we're going to make a circle and push the yarn through that circle for a slip knot. We're going to attach our hook. Now, if you want to go down a hook size for these ties, bow ties, you can. It's all up to you. Sometimes I do go down a hook size. Okay, so we're just going to chain. So just loop over and pull through. Loop over, pull through. We're going to make a chain. And I do not have a set length. Let me take this out and see how long this was. It's around 25 inches long, so something around that length. So you're going to want to make 2 that are the same length. So just continue making chains. Okay, that's about the same length. So you're going to make 2 long chains that are the same length, and then you're just going to cut your yarn and pull through, put the end of the yarn through that last loop and pull through. That'll knot it right there. So you have 2 chains. And then what I like to do is just put a little knot at the end of one of the ends of my chain. And when I'm making them together at the same time, I'll just measure them out like this. And then I'll put the knot on the other end like that. And then cut your ends. Actually, I'll leave one. I'll cut this one. And then I always leave the other end with the tail on it. And you're going to put your yarn onto the yarn needle like this. You're going to have your leg warmer facing you right side up. And then I put the seam in the center of the leg warmer. And then I lay it down. And then I sort of eyeball the center here of the double crochet rows, the first row that we did of double crochets. I sort of get an eyeball of where I want my yarn to go through, insert my yarn needle in, and then I go underneath 2 double crochets, and then I come up through, and then I'm going to skip over 2 double crochets and go in, and then I'm going to go underneath 2 double crochets and come out. But if you want to do it every double crochet, that's fine. It's all up to you. Skip 2 double crochets, go in, go underneath 2 double crochets, come out, skip 2 double crochets, go in, skip 2 double crochets, come out. Okay, skip 2 double crochets, go underneath, go over 2, go in, skip 2, come out the other side. Skip 2, go in, skip 2, come out. And you might have a different count, so whatever works for you is fine. There's no right way or wrong way. Then I'm going to go in, I'm going to skip 2 and come out. And that's going to leave me 2 in between. But if you come out when there's 1 or 0, you can come out the same hole. It's all up to you. You're just going to go evenly around there with your chain. Okay, and then I just pull it so it's sort of even. Tie your bow. And it is done. Isn't this such a cute, easy, quick pattern? I absolutely love it. So sweet. You can use your stash, make multiple colors. You can make them in stripes like this or this. So cute. This is the purple one that I made. Isn't that so cute? So I'm starting with a fresh skein, but it really doesn't take a lot of yarn at all. All right, again with our number 6. Now, if you prefer to make these with a 5, you can, because it's made to measure. And then once you know your measurement that you're going for, you can just keep making as many as you want, knowing how big you want to make it. We're putting our yarn with a slip knot on our hook. And then I am going to chain 11. Okay, we're going into the second chain from the hook with a single crochet right down the center of this stitch, the whole stitch. And because we skipped one of those stitches, now we're going to have 10. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're at the end of the row. So I started with a chain 11 and I put the first stitch into the second chain from the hook. That means we lost a stitch, so we have 10 stitches across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 V's. Okay, we're at the end of the row. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So we're chaining 1, turning our work. Okay, so now we're doing the ribbing. I like to put a regular single crochet into the very first stitch and the very last stitch, and then the stitches in between, I'm going to be using a single crochet in the back loop only. But that very first stitch, I'm going right down into the center of that very first stitch with a regular single crochet through the entire stitch, just like that. And then we're going to be working in the back loop. So we turn our work towards us, and it looks like V's laying down sideways. We're going to go right down into the center and just go behind that very last loop. Okay, that's back loop only and pull through. So we're going to do single crochets going down into those back loops. So you go down, yarn over, pull through. Back loop only single crochets. This will give you a ribbing effect and it'll be stretchy. So this is good for cuffs, around the neck, around the wrist, around the waist. It's pretty edging if you're doing any type of sweater. It'll give you that ribbing effect. You could also use this on dishcloths. Okay, so back loop single crochets in the center stitches. Now this is our last stitch, so we're going to do a regular single crochet. So we're picking up that whole entire stitch. That very first one can be a little tricky. So here's our last single crochet. We have 10 stitches across. Okay, so this is what it looks like. We've got that rib starting. All right, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work for the next row. And we're going to repeat that last row. So we're putting a regular single crochet in the very first stitch. And then all of the other stitches across are getting back loop single crochets. So if you see the abbreviation, it's going to be BLO, back loop only. This is what it is. You're going down straight from the top into that back loop and doing a single crochet. All right, so back loop only, single crochets all the way until we get to that very last stitch. Here's our last V right here. We're going to do a regular single crochet. So go and get both of those loops, single crochet into the first and the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. All right, and again, we're going to repeat the same row until we get to our measurement that I had you take around your ankle, the width measurement. You're going to continue doing these until you get to that. Right. Okay, so we're going to chain 1. So chain 1, and then we're going to be bringing our ends together. I like to have my tails and my working yarn towards the right, and then I like to have my hook end towards me and the end that I'm matching up away from me to bring them together like this. I like to do my both sides the same way so everything looks the same. All right, and we've already chained 1. We're going to be going back into that very first stitch with our hook, and then we're going into the stitch across from it on the other side like this, and we're going to just move our tail out of the way. Here's our working yarn. We're just gonna yarn over and pull through. We're doing slip stitches. So that first one can be just a little tricky to get into that chain 1 that you did. Okay, and then we're just going to insert our hook into each one of the rows, going all the way across both ends. And with a slip stitch, pull it through, insert straight through both pieces, yarn over and pull it through both pieces and through that loop, and go all the way across until you have attached both ends together. If there's a way that you'd like to connect your 2 ends, you can do it. This is just the way that I like to do it. We're going into each stitch all the way across with a slip stitch, connecting both pieces. Here's our last one right here. There we go. All right, so we've just slip stitched across there. Okay, here's our tail. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to flip this inside out. And so we have the ribbing that we just did where we connected them inside our work, and we're working on the outside. And if you look where you just connected, you're sort of in a valley. This is a ridge, valley, ridge, valley, ridge, valley. Okay, so this is what it should look like at this point. And what I like to do is just do a single crochet right into that hole where we just came out of. Our yarn is coming right out of there. I just like to go in and grab that yarn and just pull it through just to connect that very last row together like that. Okay, so this is what your cuff should look like. Okay, so we're going to chain 2 to start this next row. Okay, and we're not going to turn for this very first one. I am going into the very, very first seam stitch. Okay, so this is a valley, so it's not a ridge. This next one is a ridge. So I'm just going to go into that same stitch again with a double crochet. Whoops, I lost my, with 1 double crochet. So our chain 2 that we did, that's our turning chain. Okay, we're not counting that. And I just did a double crochet into that same very first stitch. That's our very first stitch, so that's 1. And then we're going to do a double crochet going all along in every single row. And because we did that single crochet, that regular single crochet at the end of every single row on our ribbing, it's very easy to see. So I should have 36 stitches. So I've already done 1, so place 1 in every single stitch going along. So we're placing a double crochet into each of the ridges and each of the valleys. So depending on how long you made your measurement, you might have more or less than I do. But basically we're going to have 1 double crochet into each row. Just like that. And there are ridges where the ribbon goes up, and then there are valleys when the ribbon goes down, and make sure you're getting every single one. It should be really easy to see with the way that we did that regular single crochet. Very, very visible where you're placing your stitches going all the way across. And if you wrote down the number, write down your number if you're working on your first one of rows so that you can make your second one the same. So place 1 double crochet into each row going all the way across this row. All right, so we are going to slip stitch connecting to the very first double crochet that we did. It's right above your chain 2, and then you will see your first stitch right there. So slip stitch to join, okay, and just make a count. So count all of your double crochets, because if this is your first one, you're going to make another one the same size. All right, so I have 36 going around. All right, for the next row, we're going to chain 2. And then we are going to turn our work. We're going to be working on the inside for this row. And we're going to place a double crochet right into that very same stitch that we just did our chain 2. Can be a little tight, just stick your hook in there and put 1 double crochet. And this is counting, this is our chain 2 is our turning chain. And then our first double crochet counts as 1 stitch. We're not counting the turning chain as an additional stitch. So this is 1 stitch. Let me take a photo. So that counted as 1, and we're not increasing, we're just putting 1 double crochet into every single stitch going across this row. So you should still have the same number when you're done. So my number is 36, but you might have a different number. 1 double crochet into each stitch. Okay, here's our last stitch right here. And if you're ever confused, you can just count and make sure you have the same from the row before. This stitch right here is where our turning chain is coming out of, so we don't want to put an additional stitch into there. But double check and count if you're ever confused on where to end. Right, and again, we are looking here right above our chain 2. We see our first double crochet stitch right here. We're doing a slip stitch. So join with a slip stitch to your first double crochet of the row. Okay, we're going to chain 2 for this next row. All right, we chain 2, we're going to turn our work, and now we're back on the right side. We just did that row on the inside. This is the outside again. All right, and if you look, we've done our ribbing, and then we've done 2 rows of regular with no increases to regular rows. So this is our third row. We're going to do a double crochet right into that very same stitch right here. So this is going to be right on top of our chain 2. We're not counting the chain 2 as a stitch. So this counts as 1, these 2 together. Okay, and we're placing 1 double crochet into each stitch going across. So we should have the same amount as our last 2 rows. Just place 1 double crochet into every single stitch going around this row. And I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, we're getting to the end of this row. Here's our last stitch right here, and you can do a count and make sure your counting is correct. We're not going to place a stitch right here because this is the stitch where our turning chain is coming out of. All right, so we're just going to connect with a join with a slip stitch. So join with the top of the first double crochet of the row. Okay, this is what it should look like. So you should have finished 3 rows of non-increase rows. And we joined with a slip stitch to our first double crochet of the row. For the next row, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. This is going to be an increase row. We're going to place a double crochet right into the same stitch that we just did our chain 2. The chain 2 was our turning chain, and then we placed 1 double crochet into that same stitch, same hole. All right, this is an increase row. So now we're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch together. Okay, so we have 2 double crochets in the same stitch. That's our increase. So this row is going to increase by 1 stitch, and then we're placing 1 double crochet in all the other stitches going all the way across this row. So continue placing a double crochet into each stitch, and I am on the inside of the leg warmer. So continue placing a double crochet into each stitch of this row, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so we're coming back around, and I am going to do my last double crochet right here. I'm not going to do a double crochet into this stitch because I already have this stitch coming out of it. So I'm just going to join with a slip stitch in the top of this double crochet. It's really easy to see. We have our chain 2 here, and then right at the top is our top of our first double crochet of the row. So just join with a slip stitch right there, pull through. We're going to chain 2 and turn our work. Again, we're going to place a double crochet right into that same very stitch that we just did. We're not counting our turning chain as a stitch. So this double crochet that we just did, 1 stitch, okay? And this is another increase row. We've already done 1, 2, 3 non-increasing rows. We've done 1 increase row. We're going to do another increase row. So in our next stitch right here, we're going to place 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Okay, so we have our chain 2, which did not count as a stitch. We have our first double crochet of the row in the same stitch as our turning chain, and then in the very next stitch we have 2 double crochets in the same stitch. That is our increase. And now we're going to place 1 double crochet into each stitch going across the row. So continue around and I will meet you at the end of the row. We're placing 1 double crochet into every stitch. Okay, we're at the end of the row. I'm going to place my last double crochet right here into the last stitch. If you need to count, you can. This is where our stitch comes out, so I'm not placing a stitch right here. I'm going to join with a slip stitch right here at the top of the first double crochet that we did of that row. So slip stitch to join. Okay, and we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. We're working on the inside of the leg warmer, and we've done 1, 2, 3 regular rows and 2 increase rows. This is our last increase row, unless you want to make yours bigger or longer. Okay, so we're again putting 1 double crochet into that very same stitch that we just made our chain 2 from. Okay, so here's our chain 2 and our double crochet is in the very same stitch. And this is an increase row, so we're going to put 2 double crochets into the next stitch together. 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And then we're going to be placing 1 double crochet into every stitch going across the row. So you can pause the video and I will meet you at the end of the row. Again, we're putting 1 double crochet into each stitch. Okay, we're getting to the end of the row, so I'm just going to continue, and here's my last stitch right here. I'm putting my last double crochet into that stitch. This next stitch is where my initial row started. I'm going to go up and slip stitch into the first double crochet of that row, yarn over and pull through to connect. Okay, so after we have slip stitched to join, we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn our work. We're going to be working on the front side again of our leg warmer. So in this leg warmer, we're making the scalloped edge one. So we're going to do 1 row of half double crochets all the way around. Again, we're going to place 1 half double crochet into that same stitch, because we're not counting our turning chain. And then we're going to place 1 half double crochet into every stitch of the row, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. All right, so we're placing 1 half double crochet all the way around. Every single stitch from now to the end of the row will get 1 half double crochet. So continue all the way across the row, putting 1 half double crochet in each stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. This is what it should be looking like so far. Okay, so we're at the end of the row right here. So I've got some pink yarn here, and what we're going to do is we inserted to join, so we're going to just insert our hook where we're going to slip stitch, and we're just going to pick up that extra piece of yarn from our new color. So we've got both of our ends back here. So I just place it right where I'm going to yarn over to pull through to join with a slip stitch with that new color. And then just tighten up that stitch, and I'm just going to sew to knot the ends together. Okay, so I've knotted them on the inside of the work, and we're still working on the outside of our work, and we're going to do our scallops. So what I'm going to do is hold my tails out of the way. I'm going to hold the brown tails out of the way. And what we're going to do is chain 3 with our new color, or you can use the same color, it's up to you. And then we're going to place 5 more double crochets into that same stitch. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our first chain 3 counted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all together. So we have a chain 3 and 5 double crochets, so that counts as 6 double crochets. Now we're going to skip the next stitch, and then in the next stitch after that, we're going to place 1 single crochet into that stitch. Then we're going to skip 1 stitch, and then we're going to place 6 double crochets into the following stitch. 1, 2, whoops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip the next stitch. We're going to place a single crochet in the following stitch. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to place 6 double crochets into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochets all in the same stitch. And then we're going to skip 1 stitch and put a single crochet into the next stitch. We're going to skip 1 stitch and put 6 double crochets into the next stitch. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're skipping 1 stitch. We're placing a single crochet into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always double check to make sure I've got the right amount. Okay, we're skipping the next stitch and we're placing 6 double crochets into the following stitch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are skipping 1 stitch and putting a single crochet into the next stitch. This is what it should be looking like. So we are skipping the next stitch and we're putting 6 double crochets into the following stitch. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 1 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip 1 stitch, place a single crochet into the next stitch. Skip 1 stitch, place 6 double crochets into the next stitch. Okay, we're skipping 1 stitch, we're placing a single crochet into the next stitch. And continue this until we get to the end, and I will meet you there. So it just depends on how much room you have. If you can put another scallop in, do it. Slip stitch into the chain 3, the top of the chain 3 of our first scalloped edge, right here. So just insert your hook, pull through with a slip stitch to end this row nicely. And then we are going to cut our work. And then you're going to take your darning needle and you're just going to, I like to make a knot on the inside of my work somewhere, just so I know it's secure. And then weave in your ends. I like to sort of go up, and then I like to weave my ends into the scallop of a nearby, the back side of a nearby scallop. So go underneath there, we're gonna skip a stitch and go back through. And then we're going to skip a stitch and go back through again. That'll give us a nice secure end. So cut and weave in all of your ends where you changed colors. Okay, here's our seam. Okay, so now we need to do the scallop at the top. So we're going to get our yarn that we're going to use, and then we're going to insert our hook into one of these top ridges. It's just easier to see. So we've got our hook here, and just plop it into the top of our ridge right here. And where we did our single crochets going all the way around, it's so easy to find. We're going to take our yarn, I'm going to place it behind, leaving a tail, and pull it through. I like to turn it over and put a knot there. Chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then holding our tail out of the way, we're going to place 4 double crochets into that same stitch. So our first chain 3 counted as our first double crochet, and then we're placing 4 more for a total of 5. So on the bottom we did 6 double crochets in our scallop, and for this one we're going to be doing 5. Okay, so we've got our first chain 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets, and we're going to skip the valley, and then we're going to place a single crochet in the top of the ridge from our ribbing, and then we're going to skip the valley, and then we're going to put our double crochet into the ridge one. We're going to put 5 double crochets in there. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if you want to go down a hook size for these scallops, you can. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all together. We're going to skip the valley, and we're going to put a single crochet into this top of the ridge. And then we're going to skip the valley stitch, and we're going to place 5 double crochets into this next stitch, which is a ridge stitch. 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're going to skip the next stitch, which is in the valley, and we're going to put our next stitch single crochet into the ridge stitch. Looks like this. So this is what it should be looking like. Okay, we're skipping the valley and we're putting 5 double crochets into the ridge stitch. Okay, we're skipping the valley. We're putting a single crochet in the ridge stitch. Skipping the valley stitch, we're putting 5 double crochets in the ridge stitch. So just continue doing this pattern, and I will meet you at the end of the row. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm skipping the valley. I'm placing 1 single crochet into the ridge space. I'm skipping the valley, and I'm going to be placing 5 single crochets here. This is going to be my last scallop. Again, you can space it out however you like because yours might work up differently than mine depending on your yarn, your hook, your measurement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our last scallop. And then I'm going to go up and I'm going to insert my hook into the 3rd chain of the initial chain 3 that we did to start the scallop, and I'm going to pull through a slip stitch. That's how it should be looking. All right, so we've just connected with a slip stitch. So just like we did in the first one, we're going to cut our yarn and leave a tail, and then weave in your ends. I just like to secure with a knot, and then I will work over until I get to the scallop of a nearby scallop, and I'll work in the back of that scallop. Okay, to finish off your work, and you're going to find your ends and weave in all of your ends. And you can turn your work inside out to find all of those ends in here if you've changed colors. Okay, this is the inside of my work, and I've gone and I've hid all of my ends, weaved in all of my ends. This is my seam right here. This is the seam to my ribbing, and this is my seam coming down here for my leg warmer. So it's coming down nice and straight. All right, so we're going to go back on the right side of our work, and we're going to make our tie. So what I do is I look for the seam on the back, and for these scallops, I sort of line up the scallops so they're nice and even. Okay, and then again, we're going to make a chain that is around 25 inches for me. It might be different for you, and you can go down a hook size if you want to make your chain smaller. Just go down a hook size or 2. All right, so we're going to loop our yarn and pull through, insert your hook. We're going to chain, so pull through and chain, pull through, loop over and pull through over and over and over again to make your chain. And I like to do a chain around 25 inches long for these, but you can make yours longer or shorter, depending on the size of your leg warmer. So continue making chains. Until you get around 25 inches. All right, so we've got our chain, and it's somewhere around 25 inches long. Okay, and you're going to want to make 2 of them so that they're the same length. And what I do is just pull my yarn and cut it. I'm going to leave a little tail, pull through so you knot that first one. So pull the end through the circle just to give a little knot on the first one, like that. And what I like to do is make 2 at the same time. That way they're the same length and I knot them in the same places. So you're gonna knot one on one side and one you're not going to knot. You're gonna wait. So you're going to put it on your yarn needle and you're going to just look at your leg warmer and you're gonna eyeball the front center spaces here. And you're going to go in, and we are going into the double crochet, the first row that we made. So I like to go in, skip 2, come out, skip 2, go in, skip 2, come out, skip over 2, go in, skip under 2, come out, skip over 2, go in, skip under 2, come out. All right, so I'm going in and I'm coming out. That's going to leave me 2 spaces here. You could have 1 space, you could have 0 spaces. It all depends on the size of your leg warmer. Isn't that cute? I love the pink and the brown. So even out your chains, and then I like to just tie a bow and make sure that I can comfortably tie a bow. All right, and then I will knot the ends of my yarn, my chain, on both sides. And just even it out. And then cut off any excess after that chain. If you've ever done your chain too long, you can just make a knot and cut the excess off. And there it is. Isn't it so cute? I just love it. It is so adorable. Isn't that so cute? And then you would make another one the same way. Isn't that so cute? I just love them. So here's the one with the cream, and here's the one with the pink. Which one do you like better? This was the first one that we made, lace ruffle at the bottom. And then with this one, we did the scallops at the top and the scallop at the bottom. Now you could put scallops on this one if you wanted to. You can mix and match them, and you can make this as long or short as you want to. If you wanted to make this longer after you have done your increases, then stop at that increase number and then just continue with your rows down until you get to the bottom. And then you can decide how you want your bottom to look. But aren't these so cute and adorable? So you just make 2 that are the same. Aren't they so cute? So thank you so much for watching my tutorial, and stay tuned for more tutorials of leg warmers.